Hey everyone, Renikade here. So just recently we received a nice update for Final Fantasy VII with the 25th anniversary. We got Crisis Core Reunion, which is a remake of Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core, Zack's Adventure, fantastic game, and now it's being remade almost in the same vein as Final Fantasy VII Remake. We also got Ever Crisis, which is basically a remake of the original Final Fantasy VII with, I guess for, purists, original purists, with like Crisis Core events just thrown into it. And yeah, it looks like a very nice graphical upgrade to the original Final Fantasy VII with fixed camera angles and everything like that. And we also got the remake part 2, Rebirth. So yeah, it was an interesting update. Part 3 is still up in the air, a bit of a mystery. But yeah, I mean, considering they're already doing work on part 3, I find that very interesting, and it kind of got me thinking, like, what could part 3 be titled? And I came to the conclusion that there were 3 options potentially. So you got Remake, which is part 1, Rebirth, part 2, and then part 3 I was like, well, it could either be Rewind. Reason being for that was, it's rewinding time, it's taking things back and resetting the timeline to how things should be, except Rewind didn't really sound like a good title, it sounded lame. And just not very professional. I don't think that's what they're going to do. The second option was Reunion, but of course that's out the window because the Crisis Core remake is literally Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core Reunion, so that's a big no, which left me out of the titles I thought of with Return, as the title image may suggest. So with Return, the timelines have been very, very messed up, as evidenced by Remake Part 1, which has taken quite a turn from the original game. The characters also seemingly appear to be aware of this, at least some of them. I feel like Cloud maybe even felt things were a bit off with like the memories bleeding in of like Zack and everything like that, but I am pretty certain that both Ares and Sephiroth are 100% aware of the timeline difference. So why is part 3 likely to be named Return? To me, it sounds right, and I honestly believe it fits the theme of the game and the direction that part 3 is going in. The timelines are skewed and need to be corrected, and they need to return to how they should be, hence the name. So if you haven't played the original, then prepare yourself for spoilers. Are you ready? Okay. So, correcting the timeline obviously means that Zack, my favourite character from Final Fantasy VII, must remain dead. Along with Biggs, Wedge, Jessie, and eventually Ares/Aerith, depending on the translation you play. Perhaps this is a way to make the deaths of these beloved characters impactful once more, because what hurts more than the hope of certain characters being able to defy their own fate, only for them to die again. As you approach the end of Remake, it's clear the Whispers have been trying to protect the timeline from changing, and upon beating the first part of Final Fantasy VII, it becomes very clear just how harsh the consequences of changing the timeline can actually be, and how much of a chaotic impact it has on the world around it. By part 3, I suspect that the damage done to the world will be so chaotic that the characters have no choice but to return the timeline to what it should have been to begin with. Time will tell if I'm right or not, but what I'm most interested to see is how Kadaj, Yazoo and Loz play their part in part 2, Rebirth, because Yazoo, Kadaj and Loz have already played a part at the end of Remake Part 1.